And a Rolo is a small chocolate candy with caramel on the inside of it. I don't even look like a Rolo, right? A Rolo don't have muscle. You're full of it. But whatever, I mean, whatever you feel you have to say as a bully, say it. Right? You still look stupid. Like you don't know what you're talking about, that you're obsessed with me, and you don't even know what love is, or fantasy is, or reality is, right? And you're being silly and even accusing me of this stuff that can't be proven. Oh, say 30 years later. Almost. I mean, in 4 years, actually, three. It'll be 30 years since 1994. You know that, right? And you're trying to say that only the mother herself could have went to the police about, right? And didn't, right? And also had the year I divorced her, which takes a year in Virginia, right? To tell the police if I did anything illegal or criminal when I did the divorce as well, right? And then, right, statutes of limitations runs out even on sex crimes, right? And that's because, again, right, you can't gather evidence after so long 24 hours, 48 hours, right? Now, I went back to base Monday, right? After we got back from going to see her parents, right? Now, it was her parents where she started acting all kind of crazy, right? And left me stranded on the side of the road over bullshit, right? Not me, her. She met my parents. She met my sister. She met my grandma, right? I didn't even meet hers, right? Any of her family, right? What does that tell you? The woman's more messed up than she appeared. That's why I moved back to base, idiot, right? She might be messed up, but that don't mean I wasn't trying to get better, right? Exactly. And that's your problem. Your prejudice. You're set in your ways. You're like the sand on the seashore that's numerous to count, but don't know which sand is which, right? Do you understand? Right? You're one of the crowd, but trying to be a jerk because I'm good at something, right? That's all you are. You're a waste of skin, right? You're just one in the billions of population we have now who can't make it through this planet and want to drag people down with you, right? That's all you are, in truth, right? You're a negative person. You don't even understand copyright fair use and why I can do all this. You don't read anything but what someone puts in front of you, right? You don't research on your own, right? No one can teach you anything. Or if they do, you think that's all you can know, right? That's a big problem with people, right? They think they know everything when they don't even know a third of everything, right? Or a fourth, which are small numbers, by the way. 30% is a third, and a quarter is a half, right? And now it's like when they were arguing in the movie Guardians 2, right? About a quarter being less than a half or a third, right? And, and again, right? He was just trying to get them some money from what all they were going through, but not the full deal because they were the Guardians of the Galaxy, right? But yes, a quarter is less than a third, right? But mm-hmm, right. But that's the mob mentality. And again, right. But then, kind of the mate, I guess you would call the other guy. First, he was on teaser face to the side, huh? and then he switched sides, right? But that's important sometimes when you see what the other guy was really trying to do was help out Quill, right? Right. but again, it's also a metaphor for life, right? Sometimes people are on the wrong side and don't even know it, right? And have to be brought to the truth gently, right? And realize there are things in the Bible you probably ain't even read yet, right? You know? Because they're showing you the Sunday school, the kiddie version of the Bible in there, and trust me, there's things in there that will blow your mind about a Levite cutting up his concubine because she went back to her father's house a couple times, right? And he kept having to go get her, right? And one of the times they got caught by some gay people who wanted to rape everybody in the house, right? Especially the men, right? And he sent out his concubine and they knew her all night or abused her sexually all night, right? In ancient Bible language, right? Brought to modern language. What it means is they had sex with her all night till morning, so much so she died from the abuse of the men, right? And when he left and saw she was dead the next morning, he put her on his ass, brought her to his house, and cut her up into 12 pieces, right? Bet you never read that story in Sunday school class, right? But it's in Judges. It's in Judges. I bet you never heard of the possibility that one of the men in Judges had to offer up his own daughter in a birth sacrifice, right? His name was Jephthah, right? And he had a daughter. Now, the problem is he offered to make the first thing that greeted him at the door of his house a burnt offering to the Lord. Now, the story goes one of two ways. I know either she never married, right, and died a virgin and didn't have no children, and she was his only child, right, which means he has no descendants to this day, right. Now, I don't know if he didn't have any brothers or sisters. There could be some people from his family who still had children, right? That's what I mean too. It don't mean it totally cut off the line of Jeff's parents, but his own line was cut off in that he never had any children with his daughter, right? Through his daughter, right? And if that's the case, you are cut off from reproducing any more offspring, right? In the Lord, right? Now, that's why I've been studying into what it means when Isaiah says, 7 women shall take hold of one man. And why Jesus was dealing with the woman at the well the way he was, almost like Jacob and Rachel, who also had a reproach of childbearing with Jacob. Now, this woman had 5 husbands, right? Why did they divorce her? No children, no children. Now, the 6 she was kind of living with, but probably had sex a few times, but still no child, right? Was Jesus, the 7th man she met, but neither a man nor a woman, the one to get her pregnant, right? And was that why he said, I have meat to eat of that you do not, right? Oh, he's hitting on the woman, right? He's telling her all this without knowing her, right? And he can only take it from Isaiah 4:1, right? And she had about 6 men before him, right? And it didn't bother him, right? By the way, he was with her that night until they left. Until they was about 3 nights in a row. And she was not his wife either, right? So that says even Jesus had premarital sex, and you've been lied to about it because the way John wrote it, you don't know what it's all about, right? He didn't really know all the details, right? But it's kind of strange, like the woman said, for him to not do it, right? Well, it seems like the only passage I see something similar is with Jacob and Rachel, right? Who he wanted to marry first, right? Who also had trouble conceiving until after 14 years or so, right? So did that have to do with, or 7 years, 7 to 14 years, right? And did that have to do with the contract he had with the father, right? Where she couldn't get pregnant until, or have a child until after he took Leah as his wife, right? And like Sarah and Hagar, she even gave Bilhah for him to have a child through her, right? But that also is again right, something she could do, but that also is wrong, right? And her reproach was to have a child until she did, right? And it was Joseph who took away her reproach, right? Among women, among women. And Hannah had the same problem, right? She had a problem conceiving with her husband, right? And so did who, Sarah? So did who? Rebecca. Rebecca too, right? Three women, right? The main women in the story that the men wanted to marry were having problems conceiving, right? So if Jesus met the woman at the well, this brings that into a new light, right? He knew her without legally marrying her, right? And we were told a lie. We were told a lie by the Catholic Church. Not just them. Men are telling the lie here, right? To the two women, right? That Jesus did not know women, right? Whether legally married or not, right? Well, that's what Moses said in the Torah. If a man entices a maid and she's not betrothed, and she wasn't betrothed anymore, she wasn't legally married, and she can divorce and move on from her husband as well, right? Even her lover, right? Who she also wasn't married to, right? And Jesus would be the seventh man she was with, but not a man nor a woman, too, right? Like I told you before. Or he can morph into his malform. I'm trying to say something, right? That you weren't told by the disciples because they didn't have the 3 maybe, right? But maybe I have a better shot at it now, right? We also know what morphine more means than they did back then, though King James interprets it as transfiguration, right? Well, if you transfigure into 2 more people, you're 3 people inside, right? Total. That's where the Trinity comes from, right? 3 in 1, 3 in 1. And 3 from 1. No. And all 3 are from one form. One form. Made 3 forms. Made 3 forms. The real Trinity. Androgynous, male, and female. Right. Which all 3 come from the one form. Right. And only Jesus could maintain all 3 forms too. That's why he's the God of all flesh. Right. As said by the prophet Jeremiah. Right. And see, even the Muslims didn't know this. So this ain't their fault either. Right. This is nobody's fault. Right. Per se, but they've been hiding this in a way by sealing the seals John mentions in Revelation as well, right? The men aren't trying to understand it, is what it means, right? These scriptures that kind of seem obscure, right? To them, right? Because to some men, it's a sin to have sex before marriage. Or if you're married at the time. Maybe Jesus had a wife, like I told you before, and that had to do with the marriage in Canaan, and he wasn't even living in Canaan, so if he was to have a wedding, he would have to attend his own wedding, right? Where they said the wedding would be, and it would be arranged by, like with Samson, who got the Philistine woman, but he knew where she lived, but he still had to go and get his parents to get her for him, right? And arrange the marriage, right? And though he knew the father as well, right? And they had the marriage in the father's house, right? Well, whoever married could have lived in Canaan, and the woman herself, right? And that's where she lived, and that's where it was arranged, right, for them to marry, right? But they also could have never legally knew each other, and she could also be the woman who had 7 men as well, while he had 7 women, right? as well. And they both cheated on each other 7 times, right? And yet Jesus had daughters with them, right? I think, right? And a son with her, but after the cross, right? To prove you're resurrected is really right. Do you understand, right? It's one thing if your wife's cheating on you and you're cheating on her and you have daughters, right? But if you only have a son with her, right? Even though she cheated on him with 7 other men, right? Two herself, right? So they must have died after, according to the Sadducees, right? They also died, right? That would be a bad taboo too, right? They would consider her most grievous sinner, right? And then he divorced her, maybe too, because that's why they brought up divorce. And they asked him about divorce, and he said, "Stay for fornication," right? And that's where your wife is caught in the act of adultery. Idiot. The crime, the big deal is called adultery, right? The act is called fornication. And it has to do with a married person, right? Or married people, right? Right. Cheating on each other, right? Well, it looks like they equally cheated on each other too, right? But Jesus had daughters, I figure, and only a son with her after the cross, right? But the men, I guess, apparently died after they had sex with Mary. And then, if you listen to the scribes and Pharisees, right? Wow. They're telling you something here, right? But fucking, you gotta listen. They're bringing up something in Jesus' life that they knew about, right? Hello, hello. And the men also died after they were with her. That's another way if you were never with her yourself, right? You could be with her in the future if the men die who were with her, right? No, I don't wish that on, like I said, anyone. You're not supposed to wish that on them, right? But like with David and Uriah, he had to kill Uriah in a way to be with Bathsheba, and he still wasn't sure if the first child was his or Uriah's, and then the first child died either way. Either as a punishment for David's sin with Uriah and Bathsheba, right? Or because he had to test the child with the dust and the water ceremony, right? To see if she cheated on him, right? Which would be after she gave birth, right? He already knew she had a child, but he had to test her after she gave birth, right? Well, you put dust and water in water, and you have the woman drink it for 7 days, right? That, which only calls for 1 day, right? That might be what killed the child, right? If you put it in literal practice, right? Which you can, once you can. And you're also to curse her, right? If she betrayed you in a way, right? Now, I'm not sure if David raped her, but he is the king who sent for her, right? And then you have Amnon and Tamar. And then again, Absalom raises up against his father and sleeps with his 10 virgins in Jerusalem, right? And then, right, he has Solomon and Nathan with Bathsheba again, right? Shortly thereafter, right? So again, right, they had sex 2 more times at least, if not more, right? Children, right? But we do know of Nathan through Mary and Solomon through Joseph, right? But Kaniah's line was cursed, but not Nathan's line, right? She could bear the Christ child. Now, like I told you about a hermaphrodite can get itself pregnant, right? That's another possibility. Mary herself could have been a hermaphrodite, right? Why she didn't know a man, right? And they're not telling you this on TV or in Sunday school class, right? Because they don't really know how. And I'm looking into it, that's all. And perhaps I'm the only one to think outside the box to look into it. Because of my dream, because of your dream. Which could make me want to do witnesses whether I want to be or not, right? And yet, like I said, 1,000 years to the Lord is as a day to him in his time period, but as 1,000 years in the earth still, right? See, it's only been 2 days to the Lord once he went back into heaven, right? But if 3.5 days is the same idea, right? And John talks of 10 days, how many days has it been since we fell? Six. In the upcoming millennia, right? It'll be 6,000 years. Because the Jewish calendar still says we got about another 200 years in the, according to their calendar, right? Before we're even in the 6th day, right? And that will be the end of the 6th day, the starting of the 7th day, right? By the way. I'm just telling you the time. I'm just telling you the time we might be in. And 3,500 years, right? It's 3.5 days, right? Or 3.5 days, right? Which is how long, if I'm one of the two witnesses and we go to Jerusalem, me and my wife and a companion and his wife are killed for that long of a time, right? And then we're brought up into heaven like all the prophets in the Bible to show we were the true prophets. And even though they celebrate it, right, we forgive them for they know not what they do, right? Still, we're just trying to help bring it all together for God, right? What you don't understand, which is still what all for one and one for all, right? See, Satan is trying to kill you through the act of Adam and Eve with him and Satan, right? Well, us and Jesus, the witnesses, right, for Jesus are trying to help Jesus save us all, right? That's our job, right? And that's still one for all and all for one, right? See, if you're still sitting, me and the guy who goes with me and our wives are trying to help Jesus save you, right? Even if we die in our 90s or 100 or whatever it is, right? That's our jobs, right? We're to bring it all together for you again. That they lost through the interpretations of what the disciples left behind, right? And by Constantine, they couldn't handle none of this shit, right? They didn't like the Gnostic Gospels at all, right? They couldn't even deal with it, right? But I am for you. And you can say all the bad stuff to me. Can't do nothing about it, right? Like I told you, I forgive you. Say all you want. I'm being the better man. Even if you don't think so. I am. With God. I was, is, and is to come too. Like Jesus. You is, are, and are not. Like Satan. That's the point. But you still is and are, but you're not too, right? When you die, you just die, right? Your spirit goes nowhere but into the ground from which it came, right? As some go up, some go up. If you're trying to sin less than others, right? And are forgiving nature, right? Not condemning nature, right? Now, like I said, I can't tell a sinner if you have a child with a man outside of a rape, you can't abort the child, right? Or under circumstances, even if it's consensual sex, you can't abort a child. That's allowed because of David's child being killed by the Lord 7 days later. Yes, it is. Before he could be circumcised too. You notice that, right? Right. So what the doctors are doing is before a certain time trying to abort a child, right? That's not unheard of even in the Bible. So you're lying, Christians. You can't lie. Or you're not of God either, right? I know it's sad to murder a child, but that ain't up to you. That's up to the mother, right? And she knows what conditions she's in, right? To either have the child or abort the child, and it's up to her. Now, I would tell someone trying to abort my child, you ain't got no reason to, so you better leave that baby alone, right? But I'm teasing, but like I said, right? But she still can. Like, I don't know if Sheena did, because she was acting weird, right? What's going on with her, right? But like I said, I forgive her too, because we both were confused by our churches. Me one way and her another, right? She's trying to follow the traditions of men versus the traditions of Jesus, right? Which are two different things by now, right? Why do you think we're the lukewarm church? We're not teaching all Jesus taught, right? 2,000 years ago. And he had to teach them all knew, right? And he taught as one with authority, not as the scribes and Pharisees did, right? He taught differently, right? Which is what I'm trying to do, right? I think I'm different enough that you should understand me by now, right? Or you just don't want to, and I can understand that too, right? Can't make you.